Hello, all. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you being patient while we waited for the remaining folks to join the conference. This is the QVenture webinar based around consolidated reporting for multi-unit Zees and other multi-business owners. We're going to start off by giving you a high-level overview of the current clients that QVenture works with. The idea here is that we really want to illustrate how industry agnostic QVenture is as a solution and how financial business intelligence really applies globally in terms of helping businesses understand where they are financially, what they need to do financially, and how best to run their business. We have a few examples here. I mean, they range everywhere from service-based organizations to religious organizations to folks in the oil and gas industry and even mechanic shops. So once again, the idea here is to really illustrate how universal the solution that we're going to be presenting to you is. So on our agenda today, we're going to run over an overview of QVenture, which is going to be a really high-level demo of our application. And please hold any questions that you have in the back of your mind while I'm running over it. If we need to come back and do a deeper dive at the end of the actual presentation, I'd be glad to. Also, feel free to use the chat window in order to engage my sales team. They're here in a support role and would be happy to answer any incoming questions through chat as well throughout the entire webinar. Next, we'll hit on consolidated reporting. It's really just an overview of how to align QVenture to your organization depending upon how you're set up culturally. Then after that, we will get into consolidated reporting and how it really kind of benefits you from a side-by-side basis, ranking and benchmarking, vertical analysis, and so on and so forth. The last piece, managing disparate businesses with QVenture, is really to kind of drive home exactly what it is we do and how it will benefit you in the long term, both at the macro level, at the corporate level, and all the way down to the individual locations as far as getting better visibility into the health of your organization and really providing you with analysis that will aid you in growing your organization in terms of profitability. So, and then we will close with Q&A. Bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to get the application pulled up and we'll do a quick overview. Okay. You should now see the QVenture main landing page. This would be the admin dashboard. So at the corporate level, whenever you were to log into your account, should you have admin rights, what you will see is all of the widgets that you choose to see. We give you customization options here based on period and overall setup. You can control whether or not you want to see periods of P&L, periods of balance sheet. We also give you an AR/AP aging option as shown in this list here. And a financial snapshot or financial summary. It's a QVenture-centric report that really just kind of gives you a very easy to digest and quick snapshot of where your business stands in terms of income, COGS, gross profit, expense, net income, and cash. What I want to call out here is you will see all of your locations down the left side. So the great thing about this product is it doesn't matter if the Austin location, Baltimore location, and Boise location all use, one of them uses QuickBooks Pro, the other one uses QuickBooks Online, and the third uses Xero. We can actually sync those files and provide them to you in a consolidated format or a granular format, allowing you to actually see the native file. If you want to drill down from this menu, it's as simple as clicking on each location, and all of the widgets will be reran utilizing that location's information. Now, a high-level overview here. Moving into the reporting tab. Within the reporting tab, we give you several different periods with which that you can pull reports. We allow you to run, once again, profit and loss, balance sheet. We give you a statement of cash flow option, anonymized peer benchmarking report, which is very powerful. ranking, ratios, ARAP, aging, sales by customer, and expense by vendor. So a couple of key callouts on this screen is the memorized report option down the middle gives you the ability to, once you've generated a report that you like to see, whether it's given certain business properties under certain frequencies and periods, it's very simple to save that report as a memorized report, and then it becomes a one-click option for you to log into your reporting page and very, very simply pull it up. So you will also notice that the business properties, which we will deep dive into a little bit more later, are down this left side. Think of these as filters or ways with which to divide your business into reporting groups that make sense. So to give you an illustration of what a P&L side-by-side would look like, so this is an example of our by location P&L for year to date. Very powerful report in that it really kind of gives you an idea of exactly how every location performs next to your other locations, and will also provide you with a total all the way to the left. So this report can very easily be exported to Excel up here utilizing the export to Excel option. And then were this not already a memorized report, you could simply click memorize here and choose a name in order to memorize it and make it a single click of the button going forward. So backing up here, I wanted to show you what the actual report generation page for a P&L report looks like. So when we run it by location, it's going to be side by side, not necessarily consolidated. Say we wanted to flip this thing into a consolidated version of the report for your entire business. So we currently have 15 locations loaded in. We want to run it by month. Let's do it for last fiscal year, just for argument's sake. And go ahead and run it with account mapping on. Run the report. There it generates. Now we are looking at a consolidated P&L by month for the entire environment across last fiscal year. Very powerful piece of software here because it saves you a lot of time in terms of consolidating often disparate charts of accounts into a single understandable view that you can really customize to fit the needs of your business. So the other report that I'd really like to call out here would be our peer benchmarking report. This is a powerful analytic piece that is built into Qvenci that really allows you to drive best practices. And once again, we're going to deep dive a little bit more into kind of different ways to use this and different values that you could pull as a business owner out of this report. But right now, let's go ahead and take a look at a profit and loss statement for the benchmark for the top 10% of your environment. You have the option, and let's go ahead and do this. We're going to peer benchmark the San Jose location and the Austin, Texas location against the top 10% of our entire environment. And while doing this, we'll actually run vertical analysis so that we really generate ratios. The idea behind this is it's really kind of a level set across your environment so that you can get meaningful data out of the actual report. So. So whenever we run this report, you're essentially going to get the actual numbers and the vertical analysis ratios of each account as it relates to top-line revenue, and have the opportunity to compare that to businesses that would fall underneath this peer group or for your entire environment. And the idea here is either to find out how an individual store stacks up against the entire environment, or if you have a large enough environment that you need to separate out into peer groups that make sense, you have the ability to do so and utilize that information in order to really generate and drive best practices across your organization. The last piece that I want to call out while we're in the high-level demo here is our health check. The health check really looks for a disparity between let's say total assets and total liability and equity within your balance sheet, within your net income, cash flow, ARAP. The idea behind this report is to use an algorithm to view your books and catch any possible accounting errors that may have occurred, particularly as it relates to going in and modifying, for instance, age data. When that occurs, a lot of times you'll wind up with incorrect information, and instead of spending hours trying to figure out where the math issue exists, this will actually check it every time it syncs your file and lets you know. You have the option simply by clicking on View Details to pull that information up, and it will tell you not only where the issue occurred as far as the actual date, and give you the information around total assets and liability and equity that relates to the incorrect information, so that it's very easy for you to go in and instead of spending hours looking for the problem, spend minutes fixing it. So I'm going to return to the presentation now. If any questions have come up, I'll be glad to address them or deep dive more into the application post-webinar. Now, running over a Qvinci overview real quick, this is kind of gives you an idea of what it is we do. We're a financial report consolidation tool that automatically syncs with Excel, MYOB, QuickBooks Online, any version of QuickBooks Desktop, and can also be utilized in a third-party hosting environment with QuickBooks Desktop. We offer you manual Excel syncing. So, you know, if you have somebody that's on Peachtree, on Sage, on FreshBooks, as long as they can export a formatted P&L and balance sheet, we can actually sync the information into Qvinci and provide you with the same values that we would through the softwares that we automatically sync with. We touched on the daily file health check. Really the special sauce behind Qvinci is the way we handle our dynamic mapping to the standard chart of accounts. We give you the ability to put the information as far as your P&L and balance sheets related. It gives you the ability to put that information into a format that's easy for you to view and only requires you to move it one time. And we will essentially assign a data pointer that will remember what that assignation was. And going forward, that's the way the information will be presented to you until you choose to change it. So another key call out that I want to make here is we are the exclusive recommended reporting solution for the Intuit franchise program. That's a fairly prestigious denominator there, because when Intuit was looking for a partner in order to engage with and make their recommended solution, we checked a box that they had tried several times to accomplish as far as generating consolidated reporting into a standardized format. And we were able to do it accurately. And as a function of that, they decided to partner with us because we filled, frankly, a gap that they had as it relates to consolidation and reporting. So at the bottom of the page, you'll also notice a link for the Try It Live app. It's great. It actually gives you access to the demo page I was just showing you, but with viewers' rights. So you can move through everything within the application and kind of play with it without actually having to worry about admin and messing with properties. So we wanted to run over a couple of different ways that Qvinci can be used within an organization. What we would consider our fairly standard setup would be single account, single concept. Within Qvinci, you have the account level, which is what your logins are generated out of, and the person who would admin the account would typically be the actual account owner. And you have the option to add companies or concepts, if you will. What we're trying to demonstrate to you here is we have the ability to, within a single company, consolidate, from 1 to 10,000 or any number of locations or classes, and present you with various views of the data that we are receiving, whether it's you want to see it carved out a certain way, or you want to see a general consolidation, or you want to see it as a single native file. We give you all of those options. When we move into the what we call a multi-concept single location design, really the value that you get out of this setup is you have the ability to really see your entire organization through a single pane of glass, but it may not make sense for you to consolidate the information coming from concept 1 to concept 2. There may be completely different types of businesses that you want to report on independently, but want to be able to utilize Qvinci's reporting power and a single sign-on option, to where you can, with a single sign-on, you have access to every single one of your companies and can run reporting on every single one of your companies individually. So, and the other key call out here is, as a cloud product, we give you that access anywhere from any device. So it works very well on a tablet or even a smartphone. This is more of the standard setup for multi-concept, multi-location owners. We realize that a lot of multi-unit owners are not bought into a single concept. They will diversify to a certain extent. And so one of the big ideas here is and this is something I've dealt with personally with many clients. In fact, I've got one organization that one of his businesses is a quick serve restaurant that specializes in ice cream. The other one of his businesses is actually a group of hotels. So he does need consolidation concept to concept, or within each concept, but does not necessarily want to consolidate from his ice cream business to his hotel business because he treats them as completely separate legal entities. But since he has multiple files under each, he needs that consolidation piece. He needs the on-demand reporting and really needs to see side-by-side reporting. Another very common setup for multi-unit owners would be multi-unit owners that actually want to report at the holding company level. And what I mean by that is okay, another example, I have a client that actually deals in, he's got several gas stations. He also owns an architectural firm and also manages several different properties, and he needs to report on all of them individually, wants to also see them reported on a by concept basis. But lastly, and really what brought him to QVenture was he's like, look, I really have no idea where I am as far as my holding company is concerned. And, he's like, I can make guesses when I do manual consolidations at each one of my concept levels, but, I start getting 2 or 3 steps away from possible issues. And so it makes, catching errors and addressing them very, very time consuming and difficult. And so what we bring to somebody with this type of setup is the ability to, okay, let's look at it on a by location basis. So if we look at concept 1, you see location A, location B. We can give you individualized reporting there, or we can report at the concept level. Concept 2 is the same situation. Concept 3 is actually a single file entity. But since we actually set the QVenture account to the holding company level, we can offer consolidation at each one of these 3 levels through either utilizing filter properties or performing general consolidation, and lastly allowing him or her to select each individual location to report on. So, how does QVenture really help you improve operations from a side-by-side and consolidated viewing standpoint? When it all boils down, there are some softwares that will give you a side-by-side view. There are some softwares that will give you a consolidated view. There's very few that actually give you both of them as an option. And that's one of our major values is, we're able to take what we would consider disparate accounting files and let you look at them side by side. So once again, imagine you have 50 locations and you want to see where each location stands as a unit of the whole. The side-by-side report is great for that. Conversely, with 3 clicks of a button, you can take all that information, consolidate it into a total report, and get an idea of where the corporate company stands as a whole. The unlimited logins feature. So our licensing is driven by the location or file. So, whenever you set up your account, we give you the rights to assign as many logins and disseminate this information how you see fit. We've had clients in the past just rave about the fact that they could, okay, I've signed up as my QVenture account. It's great that I can see this, but I'd really like this messaging to get out to my store management team, for instance. I don't necessarily want them to see the entire business, but would love for them to have access to the peer benchmarking report, for instance, and also to see how their store is performing, because they may be paid a bonus or an incentive based on those performance capabilities or performance metrics. We give you the ability through our unlimited login option to assign them a login, use permissions to dictate what they can and cannot see on a location basis, and disseminate this information throughout your entire environment at no additional cost other than that of the actual location licensing. So we have an extremely intuitive interface and give you several different means by which to non-financially segregate your companies into peer or reporting groups that actually make sense. So, earlier during the kind of brief demo, I touched on our business properties. And the real idea behind the business properties is that we want to give you the ability through customizable non-financial business properties to say, okay, my business is culturally carved up in this manner. One of our clients actually does everything on a per square footage basis. So if they were going to do a side-by-side comparison or a benchmark, it makes a lot of sense for them to take units that are of equal square footage in a similar, whether it's or rural setting, and set them side by side. Because the last thing you want to do, for instance, if you were going to compare a car's performance, comparing a sports car to a Suburban doesn't make a lot of sense. Most of the time, you'd want to compare sports cars to sports cars to see really how they stack up, and to figure out who your best performers are, and then make changes accordingly. That's the concept behind the business properties and the report filters. Is we allow you to break your business down into reporting or peer groups that make sense. And it really provides you with actionable data on the back end, because if your benchmark report is ran with a peer group that actually matches top to bottom and is in a similar business situation, there's no reason why you couldn't take the ratios of the top 10%, or what we would call the model, and apply them across that group and say, okay, top 10% says that I should be spending this percentage of my top line revenue on marketing, and therefore my low performers, even my mid-tier performers, if I make the same change, I shouldn't see some sort of relative growth to the top and bottom line. So consolidated reporting, when we're looking at ranking, benchmarking, vertical analysis, like stated before, it really allows you to identify your top performers and kind of develop a model of your model. To demonstrate to new franchisees, to demonstrate to possibly existing franchisees or locations that store management that just have been underperforming, or unfortunately in some instances mismanaging. Think of it as a best practices tool, and that's the feedback we've received from our clientele as we've dealt with folks in different industries. Is benchmarking can be a very powerful tool if applied correctly, and it really kind of help you level set your environment and drive everybody to meet the way your top performers handle their business. Another nice feature and overall value that QVenchi delivers is the ability to essentially jump into a QVenchi account and say, okay, I would really like to know, as a business owner, when I've covered my costs for the month. QVenchi has the ability to let you know through our email alerts, targets, and thresholds. The great thing about this feature is it's actually login specific. So, say you at the corporate level have certain goals or thresholds that you would like to see reported on a daily or weekly basis. You actually receive this in an email format, and you want to find out how you're trending to it, or if you've met or surpassed it. One of my clients, who's actually a QSR, quick serve restaurant, multi-unit owner, was the one piece that really drove him and that he cared about was knowing when he'd covered his costs for the month. Covered his payroll costs, covered his food costs, covered his just overall COGS costs. He has the ability to do that by essentially setting an alert that will let him know how he's trending to covering costs, and also when he has actually covered it, so that he knows he's in the green for that month. It's really up to you to figure out what you would like to see, and also whomever you assign logins, let them figure out what they would like to see, because once again, the dissemination of information is what is very powerful here, and understanding how you're trending towards a goal, or in some cases how you're trending towards a threshold, a not to exceed number. For instance, in a previous life, I was actually a retail store manager, and one of the single largest pieces that we were compensated based on was managing costs. And whenever we would find out that we were trending not to meet payroll for the month, if we had that information in hand quick enough, then we can make the necessary changes in order to really try to manage that and continue to meet our goals. That's not an unusual incentive type package for a store owner or store manager, and as a function of that, the actual email alert or threshold or target can present a lot of value to somebody in that position. So, this is really kind of the wrap-up. The idea of this entire webinar was to illustrate to you how utilizing QVenture can aid you in managing disparate businesses from a financial standpoint. Understanding that, your problem is I've got multiple companies. My companies all have different charts of accounts, but the bottom line is I need to consolidate those into a view that makes sense so that we can make decisions at the corporate level. That is exactly what we do. We do it better than anybody in the industry. We do it automatically. We give you the ability to filter that information using business properties into a view that makes sense for you and your business. We allow you to disseminate that information however you see fit and control how that information is disseminated through permissions. We give you a business analytic tool in our benchmarking report that really can provide you some invaluable insights and particularly some views that a lot of business owners either haven't considered or just recently beginning to consider as a means to grow profitability and drive growth within their businesses. So, I would like to close with a question to you, and my question to you is, while a lot of business owners have just recently started looking at something along the lines of QVenture, my question is what costs do you incur trying to accomplish all of the things that we can provide to you? How much do you spend in payroll and time trying to generate this information on a manual basis, and how much easier would it be with a single sign-in to get access to this information and essentially find out how your business is running from anywhere in the world that has an internet connection, even if you're on vacation. That's the value that QVenture brings. So wanted to thank all of you for joining me. I will stay on in case there are questions and be glad to answer them. In fact, I actually see a couple of them coming through right now. So okay, so the question is, so all my financial files don't have to be on the same computer? No, absolutely they do not. So whenever, once again, you could have a financial file, a group of files that are hosted at a third party. You could have within the same account as a group of files that are actually kept within the QuickBooks Online system, next to files that are attached to Zero, and it could even be syncing with a last unit that actually is utilizing Zero, not even utilizing what we would consider one of our automated linking softwares. I hope that answers your question, and if I haven't, feel free to add whatever you need to in the chat. So next question. Same version of QuickBooks Online? Yeah, absolutely. We do. We will cover the same version of QuickBooks Online or any version back to 2009. That includes Pro, Premier, Enterprise, and QuickBooks Online, and any of the other versions of desktop that I'm missing. And third question, so you were saying that I can set up my own chart of accounts so that my different accounts at different locations can be consolidated easily. Absolutely. That's exactly what we do, and even give you the ability to flip that on and off through our mapped or unmapped selection whenever you're running whenever you're actually running the reports. So for instance, we've had a client in the past where as soon as they turned on QVenture, they realized that there was a couple of issues that didn't really make sense whenever they were performing their consolidation. So you would want to be able to see the native account as well, past just the consolidation, because if you're going to drill down and figure out where there may be a mistake going on, you've got one location that for whatever reason when you're accounting for it, you've got your inventory in current assets, and then another location that whenever they're accounting for their inventory, they've got it in fixed assets. You will see that error. But you would need to have the ability to drill down into what the native account actually looks like. We give you that ability simply by clicking on or off chart of account mapping. In fact, I can actually show that to you real quick. Bear with me for 1 second. I'll open up the application again. Whenever we're actually generating the report, to further answer that question, if we were going to generate a P&L and we wanted to run this let's do a by location P&L. Let's do it for last fiscal quarter. This is the selection that I was speaking of. Whenever you have account mapping on, the information, whenever consolidation is performed, will effectively roll up into your standard chart of accounts, how you've deemed you want to see the data. If you would like to see it as it resides at the native account level, it's as simple as clicking that off. For argument's sake, I'll show a graph on this one as well, and running the report. And what you will see is that when I run the same report, instead of having these items rolling up under miscellaneous parts income, you actually see what each one of the accounts is. So it'll allow you to address any possible issues. It'll also allow you to see kind of how each location's accounting is being handled, so that if you need to make a change at the file level, you have the information you need to address it at that level. Head back to the chat window. So we have another question. The question is, since we have multiple locations, what kind of visibility will our employees have at each location? It really depends on how you plan on utilizing QVenchi and how closely tied from a collaboration perspective, your culture is. We give you the ability to, with the unlimited login feature, we give you the ability to give every store manager viewers' rights or contributors' rights. Through permissions, you can either take, okay, I've got a retail store location and I want the manager of that location to have visibility to this information, but exclusively to their location. We give you that ability. Now, they'll still be able to run the benchmarks, but the great thing about the way we handle benchmarking is we will essentially only present a benchmark report if it's an average of more than one location. So you'll never be able to back into someone else's financials, but you'll be able to see how your location compares. And a lot of times it allows a certain level of self-service at the location level. Now, a caveat to that is people with very tight collaborative corporate relationships, you can give multiple location viewers rights to whomever you please. We have another question. What if I have one file that houses multiple store financials by classes? Can I still delineate by store? Absolutely. We do currently sync by class. There are a couple of caveats to that. So great thing about giving you the ability to sync by class, and a particular client that I'm working with comes to mind that has 90 different retail locations that they actually roll up under the same QuickBooks Online account, and they account through the classes option or locations option within QuickBooks Online. So she came to me and she's like, look, while I have some level of side-by-side reporting within QuickBooks, I really have no way to carve out groups of my locations or perform benchmarks or really disseminate this information at the store management level. And it seems like I spend, 3 or 4 hours a day trying to essentially move this information around into types of reports that my executive staff would like to see. And we can really help solve that problem because we can sync at the class level. And by doing so, you can still utilize all of the features in terms of business properties, in terms of benchmarking, in terms of P&L. We do not currently sync by class balance sheet, but that will be added in the near future. That's something we can deep dive into if we need to. But just keep that in the back of your mind. We'll say 6 to 8 week time frame on that. But it doesn't really take away from the power of being able to run a consolidated P&L, say by region or by market type. That particular client used tiers of income. So and allow you to see that information and disseminate that information in a very easy, intuitive manner. One second. Okay. And last question I see on there is, can I delineate by store Or what does the name look like that I'm presented with within QVenchi? Absolutely. So whenever we're building out a particular location within QVenchi, we actually ask you what you would like that particular location or class to be named. We'll also ask you how that particular location or class falls as far as what business properties apply to them, and how we're going to delineate those properties. Now, a lot of my clients, that's a question that comes up, and obviously it's been presented here. It does not have to match the naming that is actually shown on the file itself. If it's store 2531, or if you want to call it, franchise business 3, whatever you deem appropriate is what we can call each location. Now, are there any more questions at this point, or have we addressed them all? All right. Well, I will hang on in case any other questions come up. My team will be available to answer the chats as well. I really appreciate you joining us today, and I hope you see the true power of QVenchi and what we can bring to your business from a financial business intelligence standpoint, from a benchmarking analytics standpoint, and frankly, just by making your life easier. So have a great day, and I hope to hear from you all soon.